right, good evening, everyone. We'll go ahead and, I've got 6:30. We'll call this meeting to order. This is the January 24th, 2022 meeting of the Merrimack Conservation Commission. First item, public comments. Are there any public comments tonight? Or are you gentlemen here to speak to something that's on the agenda? Okay.
Trying to figure out what section 6 third item is.
Okay. I think we'll get there pretty quick. It's a pretty lean agenda tonight. We don't have any public hearings. We do have an appointment matter to talk about for the Scholar Subcommittee. And either Mike, or David, where do we leave? Were we just gonna, you were gonna tell us about that candidate? We were gonna vote on that tonight, or?
Oh, I will.
Okay, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Oh, okay. All right, so, her name's Nicole. I met her down at the park. Her and her husband, went down there. Apparently they frequent there. They just go and they just sit and, relax like most people. They saw me digging a ditch to drain one of the puddles and they helped out. So I appreciate that. And, they told me that they came from Tennessee about 8 years ago, and they moved up here, which is a bit of a different climate. But they're looking to get more involved in the town now that they've been here a little bit. So I mentioned that there was a spot on the subcommittee, and she said she was interested. So I think an alternate spot would be a good start to get involved in our community. So
She won't, 2 years or 3 years?
either is fine.
Did she submit a letter at all? Request?
I didn't see one.
Okay.
It was verbal.
Yeah.
Is that required?
No, it wasn't required. It's just that we've always asked people just to kind of give us a quick little bio of who they are, what they want to do. It's just nice to have it on record so we,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Yep.
The other two didn't either. So going forward,
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing formal, just
Just
blanket, hey, this is who I am, this is
Mhm.
why this interests me, here's my background. Because it's not a disqualification what their background is, because obviously, this is why this works, is because none of us have the same background, so it's just good to have that availability to us. Like Eric was the perfect candidate. He's like, oh yeah, I done all this mapping. We're like, awesome, great. That was just something we would only have come up in conversation if we'd ever asked him. Oh yeah, we need someone to do mapping. We didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you have an email contact address for her?
yes, I
Okay,
do. I'll get it to
Can you
you
make sure I get
after.
that before you leave?
Did you want to make a motion, Mike?
I'm not seated currently.
Oh, you know what? An administrative note too. Eric's not with us tonight. Dave, would you sit in as a voting member for Eric? Thank
I can make a
you.
motion.
And I only do that
You want to
'cause
require that?
he's never sat
No,
in as
okay.
a voting member.
it's too late now. We should be.
I'll make a motion to nominate Nicole Morning Christian to the Scholar Subcommittee as an alternate member.
Second?
What's the term? June 30th of what? Wait a minute, it's July 31st.
Oh, so
They
you
go
want
on, they
two-
go on.
2
July.
years?
2 years? All right.
24?
Yeah.
Okay, and Gage
Motion
seconded?
by Mike, second by Gage. Any further discussion? No? All in favor? Motion carries 7-0. Fantastic.
All right.
Well, we thank her for her interest, thank Nicole for her interest, and look forward to seeing her. There's no statutory advisory business tonight, so that brings us to agenda number 6, new business. All right, the first item we had was feedback from resident Jeff Hoy. to reverse the decision we had made on the December 6, 2021 meeting of the Merrimack Conservation Commission. This request, or this motion regarded the use of tools and the reimbursement of tools. It's in the meeting minutes. We have Jeff Hoy's letter that he sent to the commission. We've all reviewed that. I think it's probably in your packets. I know I printed it. Jeff is not able to be with us tonight. He had originally intended to come, talk to us about that that letter he wrote. Is anyone unfamiliar with that motion? Or why what his concerns were regarding that motion?
Are you familiar?
Yeah, I keep looking at you, Dave, just because I know you weren't sitting here with us on December 6th, sorry. Does anyone want to discuss that letter he wrote to us? We didn't talk about it during the January meeting because it wasn't on the agenda, and since it was a matter, raised by the public, we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity to invite public input. Yeah.
I think it's a fair question to ask about whether reimbursement is a problem. What I don't know is how other conservation commissions have dealt with this, if at all. I've checked some resources from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions and haven't gotten a clear answer.
So something I remembered post our discussion, the initial vote is, we've had this come up before. We did some work in Horse Hill, and the person that we were going to borrow their machine, it needed a tune-up and had been in kind of a state of disrepair, and we as an organization decided not to reimburse him to fix it. We did paying for it. Personally, we ended up paying for it because he's been a long-standing member of the community and very helpful and willing to donate the tool, but we decided not to fund it out of this commission. It was not just for that purpose. Not personal equipment is personal equipment. If people want to let us borrow it, great, thank you. But if it's going to be repaired, it's going to have to be a private situation. And unfortunately, I did not remember that prior to us voting on this. So
I think I remember you trying to keep us out of that rabbit hole
yeah,
during the last vote.
yeah.
Probably, I mean, if there's ethics involved and, if we're breaking not a tradition, but if this is something that we haven't done before, then maybe we should, vote to rescind that. Do you have a problem with that?
I wasn't planning on getting the reimbursement anyway
Yeah.
until this is resolved. But he says I voted
Yeah, you
on that
did.
meeting. I did not
Yeah.
vote on that.
Yeah.
I wasn't seated, so I'd like to clarify
Yeah.
that.
So, I
I
mean,
have no problem with it.
Yeah.
We can figure this out later on. It's not that important.
Mr. Chairman. So I think there's two separate issues here. There's one issue, the reimbursement, is it the right thing or is it the not the right thing? And then the second issue is the ethics question. So I think if you go back to the first question, should we reimburse or should we not reimburse? I think, and the town manager and I have spoke on this at length, I think you go down a very slippery slope here. What happens when you ask someone volunteers equipment and they come in and it's a $10,000 transmission goes out of a piece of equipment? Does that mean the commission is on the hook to replace somebody's transmission? I think when you volunteer and you volunteer your personal tools, you're doing that with no expectation for a reimbursement. If you volunteer for Meals on Wheels, the first thing you're not going to ask for is someone to reimburse your gas costs. You're volunteering to go deliver those meals. You're volunteering your vehicle, you're volunteering your fuel, you're volunteering your time. The very definition of volunteering is not to expect something in return. And I think when we have volunteers that either volunteer their time or volunteer their tools, equipment, whatever it may be, if they start asking for reimbursement from the commission, they're not really volunteering. We might as well go hire somebody at that point. And so I think we get into a very gray area that could easily go deeper than we want to go by reimbursing someone for their personal equipment. So that's what I have to say on the first point. The second point on the ethics, I think everybody is correct. Mike did not vote on that particular one. However, he did participate in the discussion. If the discussion is towards your personal gain, you should recuse yourself and not even participate in the discussion. I think there was one point where Mike even egged on the council and said, you guys aren't going to reimburse me anyways. I think even participating in that discussion was wrong, and it shouldn't have happened. If someone made a request to get something personally from the commission, they should have turned it over and then been out of the discussion. That's where I stand on the 2 points.
Anyone else?
Maybe we could, as a commission, like, add a policy to say we're not gonna reimburse volunteers, going forward. And then if anyone does come, we can do it. It was $65, so I wasn't really worried about the one that we had already approved. And I did read, the Code of Ethics, the conflicts of interest, and I guess I always thought that was more geared towards, like if your brother is a developer and comes in, and then you recuse yourself. Or I used to work for a company in Merrimack. If they had come in with a proposal, then I would have, sat out. But I can see that this one's kind of, whether it could fall in there or not. But I would just suggest we just make a policy going forward that volunteer, that it's on the record and that it won't really come up again. But
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know that it's not going to come up.
Yeah.
My name's Paul McKelly. I'm the town manager. Had dealt with this in several different areas. And honestly, right now, Mr. Druin needs to step away from the table. Because him just sitting at the table right now, we're talking about him. We've had issues with town councilors, and they get up, they recuse themselves, and they move to the back of the room. That's what I would suggest right now to continue this conversation. Second thing is you set precedent. You set precedent by approving it, even though it's $65. The next person comes in, says, you didn't give it to me because I don't sit on the Conservation Commission. That's why I didn't get reimbursed. You set precedent. That's the second thing. As for the ethics complaint, we have an ethics committee. The gentleman can bring it forward to the ethics committee and they can do a full investigation. Mr. Hunter is correct that you were talking about a totally different topic. You're talking about a shed. And next thing comes up is the repair for the chainsaw while you're talking about the shed. Number one, I don't know. I didn't go back and look at your agenda. I didn't know if that was on there. There's what we call as a sniff test. And the sniff test is, would somebody stay at home full knowing what's on the agenda? And if you're going to talk about that kind of reimbursement and it wasn't agended, it's really not a proper vote because it's not on the agenda to discuss, because people from the public cannot come and discuss that with the board or their feelings with it. So there's always that, what we call the sniff test. Would you stay at home if you knew it was on the agenda, or would you come out and talk? And there's several times where you'll see the town council come back and put something on there, and we'll call it housekeeping. We actually have something going forward this Thursday. That's something the council talked about almost 6 weeks ago, but because of housekeeping, I need to bring it forward in a public hearing. It was on the agenda. It was properly put on the agenda. We discussed it, but our policies, our ordinances say that we need to hold a public hearing on what we discussed. So even though we took a vote and we're moving forward, we have to go back and redo the vote and hear it again in a public hearing setting, because that's what our ordinance says. So for those are the couple items that are there. Number one, you're setting precedents. Number two, it wasn't even agended. And number three, the discussion, the person should not be sitting at the table at all, even though it's done. And we've had done this, and we've had counselors get up. I had a gentleman who used to work for Primex Insurance. We were talking about insurance bids one time. Three words into it, he raised his hand, said, "I'm recusing myself," got up out of the chair, he was the vice chair, and he actually walked out of the room because he doesn't want the people to think that he's forcing the vote towards his company or towards his reimbursement. The Ethics Committee does talk about, yes, if your brother comes in front of you, or you got a good company comes in front of you, you should recuse yourself as well. And it's for personal gain. Anything with personal gain on that. Now, in order to fix this, because you had a vote, and it's a public vote, some of the voting members that voted in favor of it need to vote to reconsider the motion. Two people, the person who moves it has to be one that voted in favor of the vote. So I believe Mike, Gage, Gina, Ellen, I think you were there too. Cynthia, you were there too. You can move to reconsider. Steve, you cannot because you voted in the negative. So any other members can vote to reconsider. You can second it and then discuss it, vote on it. Then once you reconsider it, you can take a vote again, bring up what the motion was, and take a vote again to make it one way or the other, if that's what the commission wants to do. So, sorry for the long-winded answer. I appreciate you letting me step in. I know it's a little bit out of the realm to have somebody come and talk, but just wanted to explain what's going on. Now, this gentleman, he can go ahead and file a complaint with the Ethics Committee. He comes into my office and files the complaint with my office, and my office brings it to the Ethics Committee. They're a separate organization in the town. We do have an Ethics Committee in this town, and they look at matters like this. We'll convene a meeting, and they'll listen to the facts. Okay? Are there any other questions about this at this time?
No.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming here and
Paul.
coaching
Thank you
us
very
on
much,
this.
Paul.
Mike, I do understand too, what the town manager is saying with the perception of you
Yep.
being at the table. Would you be opposed to taking a seat on the bench while we just
Sure.
tidy up the housekeep on this matter?
Steve, I have one housekeeping question.
Yes.
I was voted on the motion on December 6th. I am not sitting in tonight for anybody. I'm an alternate. Do I participate in the reconsideration vote?
Sorry.
That is a great question, because you're not sitting right now
Right.
as a voting member.
Mhm.
You would not have to. You cannot move to reconsider.
Okay.
One of the other four people would have to move to reconsider. And then they would have, the vote would be just with the voting members right now,
Okay, thank you.
okay?
Okay, I'm going to move to reconsider the vote of December 6th, 2021 for the reimbursement of $65 to Mike Druin to fix his chainsaw.
Second.
So,
Motion by Gina, second by Cindy. Anyone feel like we need to have further discussion on this matter? Nope. All right, we'll vote. All in favor of the motion?
Is this a motion to reconsider?
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah,
This is the motion to reconsider.
that motion carries 7-0. All right. That resolves that agenda item.
Do we have to
Thank
take
you.
another vote?
Now we need
Now-
another
Oh, we do need another vote?
Now we need to make the motion, the same motion that we made on the 6th.
Okay.
Is that true? Okay.
Or a motion very similar to it. And you always want to make your motion in the positive. So the motion would be to reimburse Mr. Druin $65 for repair of his chainsaw, and then you would want to take the vote that way. You always want to make your motion in the positive,
Okay.
Right.
because a double negative means positive.
Thank you.
So in other words, if I made a motion to deny the motion?
No.
No.
No, what you would say, your motion would be, I move that we reimburse Mr. Druin $65 for his chainsaw. And then there would be a second, then there would be discussion on it, and you could say what you want, and then there would be the vote.
Oh, and
If you
you
say,
don't.
I deny the motion, it's very, how do I vote? If I vote yay, am I denying it? If I vote no, does that mean I'm denying it? It gets tricky with the double negative, the
All right.
deny and the no vote. It's,
So I'm just making the same motion.
Yeah.
Basically, yes.
All right, so, I make a motion to reimburse Mike Druin for $65 to repair his chainsaw
From Fund 53.
from Fund 53.
Second?
Okay, so this is essentially the identical motion to
No,
December
right.
3rd. Okay. All right. Do we need further discussion?
I don't think so, in light of Andy and Paul's comments. you know.
Okay, all in favor? All against, all opposed? Okay, so that motion vote is 0 in favor, 7 opposed, and 0 abstained. The motion will fail.
And Mike, similar to what we did last time, if there's hardware or something that needs to be fixed, let me know and we can figure something out.
All right, thank you, Mike, I appreciate you. That brings us to the next agenda item, the Winter Carnival. So the Winter Carnival
Someone has.
is, do you have the dates?
No. I don't.
No,
I
it's
think I-
generally the last week in February. We didn't do, last year there wasn't a Winter Carnival. This year, we're not sure, we haven't been invited to the Winter Carnival yet, although just based on how many meetings we have between now and then. Are there conservation commissioners available that weekend who would be able to go man the table if we had one, or do we want to opt out of that this year?
I'll do it.
It's February 26th.
February 26th? Is it just one day, Ellen?
According to the website, it is February 26th, noon to 3, and that's it.
Oh. And it's not too late to get a table.
No, we can get a table.
Generally, what we've done is set up a table next to the extremely popular hot dog stand. And we brought some things, and one of the things we have downstairs next door is we have a duck box. We have some trail maps, that sort of thing. You think you'd be interested in that?
Yeah, just educate me more on these duck boxes.
Oh, right.
All right, well, that is great. We'll ask for the table when they make it available to us, and we'll keep you posted on that.
Cindy, would you mind putting that on the calendar, please?
Oh, sure,
Thank you.
sure, yep. Yeah, I mean, in the past, me and Gina did it before COVID. But it's COVID, really. But yeah, we would just have, I think we had some big maps that we'd show people, and then we'd have some handouts. You know, a lot of people just didn't even know that we had a lot, you know, some of the properties, like, they didn't know, it's at Wasserman, we're like, the trailhead's right over there. So they were excited to learn about it, and, you know, so, thank you for Terry.
Anything else on the Winter Carnival? Proposal on bee colonies. You want to talk to us about that, Mike?
All right. So, I forgot where I got the idea. I must have been reading something or something. But basically, my idea was to allow beekeepers to have hives on the properties. It was actually Hudson that does that. And they're allowed on the conservation land. Now, I've read that that piece that you attached to the agenda, and I do agree with it. I did more research on that, and honeybees do a lot of damage to local pollinators. I would agree to that. Which raises the question, if someone has hives next to our conservation area, is it doing damage to our conservation area?
I mean, I don't think it's something we worried about, you know.
It's like,
It's not if the hives are on our property, we can't control where they fly. You know,
well, I'm just saying,
yeah.
what damage is being done that we're not seeing? Like, from doing the research on the pollinators, there's a lot of different pollinators, not just bees. So I was thinking about that and how can we better improve the habitats for pollinators, like wildflowers and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's something we can discuss later on. It's just food for thought.
It was a very interesting article, and you gentlemen came, I think, both because this item piqued your interest.
Be interested in seeing the article.
We can share that. That'll become part of, It'll become
I will
part of
send
the.
my copy.
Oh, even
I
better.
have a copy.
And it'll
Do you-
become
do you have
part
an
of the.
extra copy?
I have my copy they can have.
No, I can get this out of the meeting minutes. Out of the,
I got it.
If they're here for this, can they come up and speak if
Yeah,
they want?
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Would you like to make your case?
I don't have a case yet. I'm a local beekeeper. I've been in town for 31 years as a beekeeper. I sell beekeeping supplies.
Can we-
Could you?
I'd love to
Could you
know.
sit and speak?
And just say your, if you would, just say your name and your address.
Make sure the light's on. Should just, there you go.
Name is Alan Lindahl. I
Alan
run-
what?
Lindahl, Lindahl,
L-I-N-D-H-A-L?
AHL.
A-H-L.
I run a beekeeping supply business here in town, have for the last 31 years. I haven't read the article yet, so don't really know what it's addressing. But problem with honeybees, what do you feel is the problem with the honeybee? They do more
Alright.
good than they do bad.
All right, so I agree that I love honey, personally. I use it in my coffee. But according to that article, which is an opinion piece in my opinion, and other articles available to the public, honeybees take up the limited resources that other native pollinators have. That's what the articles are saying. That's what I've read. So if you have other information that counters that, I'd appreciate it.
Well, bees have been around for thousands of years, and they've not really in competition with other pollinating insects. Honeybees are not a solitary bee, but a social insect, and their main function is to be in the hive and promote the hive and get the hive to thrive and raise enough honey to keep the colony alive. That's their main function in life, not for us to steal their honey, okay? But to say that there's an issue with bees as far as being near conservation property, they can only help by pollinating, which promotes further growth of plants and trees. Not an issue. Shouldn't be listing it as a problem.
What, have you walked through our properties and identified plants that they would be pollinating? Because we're at a situation where we're trying to plant some plants for pollinators. And I've been to Brookdale's to pick raspberries, and they have like 4 hives, and there are thousands of bees.
Yep.
Thousands, and I just don't see that we have enough plants that are flowering plants that are gonna make the pollen that your bees would need to sustain to make honey.
Typically in a hive, there's 40 to 60,000 bees per colony. I have right now 3 colonies on my property just down the street.
And I have 2.
Typically, a piece of property can sustain 4 to 6 hives in one small area, and the bees are out foraging for whatever they need for protein, which is the pollen, and the nectar, which they're getting off of the other plants and trees. They're not competing with really other insects because they're going to go to their spot that they're going to.
But what's-
Bumblebees, mason bees, whatever type of bee, most of them aren't bees, but honeybees are extremely beneficial to the environment. 1/3 of the food you eat is because of honeybees.
I understand that. I guess my question is, invasives, You know, I understand that they like invasives,
Bees
but-
do like invasive plants. It's unfortunate, but the invasive plants actually tend to be extremely beneficial to the bees because they're able to bring more in to sustain their hive. Trying to think of, Japanese knotweed is an invasive weed.
Right.
Very, very, very prolific in nectar in the late summer. And it's a great source of nectar for the colony.
And it's really good honey.
What's that?
It's really good honey.
Yeah.
I
And
think
the
Andy
state
got
has
it.
been trying to eradicate the plants, throughout the state by spraying them, trying to kill it. But it seems to come back. Purple loosestrife was another one back probably 15 years ago. The state came in and brought these beetles in to kill the purple loosestrife. And purple loosestrife is back again. And it's a fantastic summertime plant for honeybees. The forage that the bees need to be able to survive is out there, and the bees will find it. They're not doing damage to property because they're beside the property or on the property. They're foraging just because they're trying to survive.
No, I understand that. I mean, at this point now, we're trying to plant plants for pollinators.
Yep.
So I don't see that we have enough plants right now for the native pollinators, so I don't know how we would sustain 40 to 60,000 bees per
Well, you're not,
hive.
40 to 60,000 bees is what's in the colony.
Right.
There is not 40 to 60,000 bees from that colony out flying all the time. There's probably 10,000 bees out
Yeah,
flying.
I don't know how our conservation commissions, because we're at a point now where we're trying to get rid of invasives because they're killing, the native plants. So if we bring in honeybees, I don't want to starve your honeybees. What will they eat?
Well,
Is anyone asking to bring the honeybees onto our?
I don't think it was
I
asking-
guess that's my question, Mr. Chairman. I was under the impression that that this was put on the agenda so we could talk about potentially letting beekeepers have hives on conservation property, but it seemed like we started off with, we should be concerned about
Yeah.
beekeepers next to conservation property. So I'm not sure what the intent of this agenda
Yeah.
item is. Are we here to discuss potentially allowing beekeepers on conservation property?
I think that's what this started as.
You want my recommendation?
No.
Don't. You're opening yourself up to liability.
I think we've had the same challenge. Was there a specific parcel, Mike, that someone approached you?
Oh, no. So I did support it until I got the packet, which had that, what do you call it? That article in it against it. So I was educated by
Okay.
that and my further reading.
Yeah,
Mr.
we
Chairman?
put on the agenda thinking that there was a specific parcel someone was asking, and we've kind of had a similar debate with maple syrup operations on conservation properties. But it doesn't sound like that there's that specific request.
No.
Would you let a farmer in to graze his cows onto conservation property? Probably not, because it's going to disrupt the area. Bees are not going to disrupt the area per se, but if you've got larger animals, then there's more damage to the property and whatnot. But opening yourself up to the liability where somebody comes on conservation property and gets stung. Well, first of all, prove it was a honeybee, which there are ways to do that, but kids tip over a hive and get stung and get hurt. It happens, not something that we want to see, but it has happened in the past. The liability issue probably isn't worth it for you. As a sole beekeeper that keeps 1 or 2 hives on their property, their homeowner's insurance typically would cover that. But conservation land, no.
I don't think we would ever vote for it, because we generally wouldn't vote for things that someone's making money off of, like the maple syrup. Somebody
It's been
wanted
the
to do the
same.
maple syrup, but they'd be selling it, so I don't think we would ever vote to allow. And because of the liability. I mean, you'd really want it electrified to keep bears out, so we really wouldn't want that,
Yeah.
you know?
And you would need electric fence.
Yeah, so,
I've lived 2 streets over, and I have bear here.
oh, yeah.
So,
Well, sure, that's gold to them. They're like, yeah. right.
Mr. Lindo, if, I'm assuming that your community, beekeeping community is pretty small. Well, within this town, within the town, we do often, we spray for invasives. I'd like to have a contact that we can get in touch with someone to make sure that wherever we're spraying, you guys have the chance to get the bees back into the hive and keep them safe while we're doing the spraying. Is there a single, like, is there a group, is there a website or something that you guys have that we can get in touch with you and get in touch with all of you?
I give you a card.
Yeah, that would be great.
How many beekeepers do you think there are in Merrimack?
I think I've only seen 3.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm guessing there's
I'm waiting to
100.
hear, I'm waiting to hear the answer though.
You,
I added up on my computer system this afternoon, the ones that have purchased equipment within the last 2 years.
Just in Merrimack.
Just people that lived in Merrimack.
Okay.
48,
That's nice.
okay? Beekeeping is popular.
Oh, yeah, I was saying, I'd like to be able to make sure that when we do something, I want to be able to get in touch with you guys.
And what are you spraying? What,
No, well, we do have invasives and like knotweed, and they're on property and they're destroying local property and they're going in neighbors' yards, so we do have to spray.
Do you
Okay.
remember what we sprayed there? I don't.
What we
the
spray?
Conservation Commission is spraying?
No.
No, we hire licensed applicators.
Okay.
And so I just would like to be able to get in touch with someone and say, look, hey, this is what's going on and these are the dates, because that gives people locally a chance to get the bees back in the hive and keep them in for the day or two that they need to.
One of the ways that is done is through the state. If beehives are registered with the state, different spraying companies are required by law to notify the beekeeper.
Okay.
And that's done through Department of Ag, Plants and Animals, I believe.
Okay. If you have a card or something that you could leave it with us,
I
that
do.
would be great. We'd appreciate that.
But my recommendation would be, don't allow beekeepers, myself or anyone else, to put bees on conservation land, because you're opening yourself up to more problems than you probably want. I was on this commission when it first started, back, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, whatever. We never had that one come up, though. So,
well, thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate your
For
time.
feedback.
If I may make one comment.
Yeah, just say your name and address, would you?
Kevin Fitzgerald, 18 Jakes Lane, Merrimack.
Thank you.
Several years ago, I was contacted, well, I wasn't contacted, it was let be known that they were gonna be spraying, or you were gonna be spraying over on Brookside, which is adjacent to Jakes Lane.
Yep.
At that point, I gave my name to the Conservation Committee to inform me when you were gonna be spraying. I have not heard a damn thing in 6, 7 years now. You might wanna check back in your previous records and find out how my name got dropped. Oh, and one other thing. If you do consider banning bees in any effect, be aware, each bee when he leaves the hive is capable of going 3 miles away from the hive.
I don't think we've sprayed for quite a while now.
It's been at least 5 or 6 years, yeah.
Yeah.
It was over on Brookside.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
exactly, I know exactly where it was.
Yeah, that's probably the last time we sprayed.
Yeah, it was.
Well, thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
The only other agenda item we have under new business is a discussion about how we put together the agenda for these meetings. Mike, you had, yeah, thank you. You'd asked for that to be on tonight's agenda.
Yeah.
Do you have some ideas, some proposals?
Yeah, I believe, was it 14 days right now? 14 days.
14 days.
You have to submit an item 14 days prior at least.
Yes,
Mm.
Yeah. I believe 14 days is too much. I believe it should be,
I don't think that's something we've got control over. I think that's the town bylaw.
Mm. Is it 14 days or 10 working days? It's about, I guess it's the same unless it's a holiday.
Yeah.
And it has to be posted.
Mhm.
Is that,
Mr. Town Manager? Have you got a moment?
Is that for,
Going with the beekeepers.
is that for all
It's
committees?
Conservation
by the way?
Commission.
Yes.
Other side,
Yeah.
Memorial.
Do you know the notification
So-
timeframes?
So it's 72 hours for meetings. Agenda has to be posted 72 hours before a meeting. That's what we do with town council.
Right, and to get items on the agenda, how much time do we need?
We try to at least have the items 10 to 14 days in advance. The reason why we're asking for 14 days in advance is because sometimes and actually, I think a public hearing is even more than that. I think we ask for 21 days in advance so we can get it, because you have to have those 7 clear days. And usually you can't get it in the paper the day you receive it. So
Okay.
we try, and the reason is because of backup material, to get the backup material. It's a little different. I don't know how you get your packets out to individuals. Town council, we have them ready for them the Friday before a meeting. So we'll send out the meeting and the agenda, and then all the backup will be put on the web the Friday before the meeting. So we're already, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 7 days right there to get it out in advance. This way, if we carry over to Monday, we still have those 3 days that we need to post a meeting. And then you need the information a couple days before that. So if you're looking at 3 days before that, it would be 10 days. And then if you have questions on the material, it doesn't get on your agenda. And I think you meet, twice a month? With the first and third?
First and
Yeah.
third.
Right, so then you're pushing it. If you have questions on the information, then you're pushing it out for the next meeting. So to have stuff on there to get it for 14 days, I don't see that as a huge rush, because you use our community development to put everything together, but to get that all together and then out, because how do you get your packets, if you don't mind me asking?
We pick them up from
They're-
downstairs.
So you pick them up, so they're
We
here?
get them emailed, and then they're hard copies here.
Okay, but here, so you would have to
Yeah.
come and get them anyways, and
Yeah.
then review the stuff, so, 10 to 14 days is basically a minimum sometimes
Mm-hmm.
for some of this stuff, because you're dealing with developers, and you're dealing with people that need to come see you before they move on to the next phase of the program.
Mm-hmm.
If they have to get your approval to do a subdivision or things of that sort, you delay them 2 weeks, that can delay them 2 months in the planning board process.
That's an expensive machine to have sitting there.
Yeah,
2 weeks doing
exactly.
nothing.
So that's
Mhm.
why if you do it 10 days, this way, 10, 14 days, they know they gotta get their stuff to you, and they can't blame you and say, well, I got it to you in 7 days, and
Okay.
and things of that sort. So that's really, it's a little different than what we do for town council, because you're in a big cog that's moving some of the programs forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I 10 to 14 days works.
Yeah.
Sorry for the long-winded answer.
No.
but-
No,
you.
again,
We need it.
appreciate it.
So you have different deadlines for different types of projects, different agenda items.
Correct.
So if we would like to do site walks, would you recommend we have the same as you, 21 days?
That's a commission if they want to do a site walk or not on a piece of property. There are several times where there'll be something put on the town council agenda, and I'll drive out there, and I'll visit the stuff, and I'll look at it, so it refreshes my memory of what's going on with a piece of property or a decision that's being made. So if you want to do a site walk, yeah, you can do 21 days, but I think if you do 14 days, you can still get it in plenty of time if somebody wants to go walk the property. That's just my opinion. If you want to make, counselors go out all the time, and
Yep.
they pick up their package sometimes on Sunday, and they're out on Monday and Tuesday nights driving and looking at some of the stuff that might be on it. So it's up to the individual and how dedicated, which you all are. When do you want to find time to do that? So now, even with 14 days, I think you can go on a site walk for the most part. unless it's like Saturday.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Run.
Yeah, right.
All right, so what I'm trying to say is, I don't think some agenda items should be 14 days.
I think it
Like,
should be more or less.
some should be more, some should be less. I think we should adopt the system like the town council has, so that for items that require review, like building plans, stuff like that, site walk, it should be more. Things like, the Winter Carnival or appointing a subcommittee member, it should be less.
And what are we looking to achieve? I'm just trying to make sure I understand your,
It's just if, you know, it comes up and it's like 13 days prior to the meeting, instead of waiting, you know, a whole month to do it, it can still be added. I'd say lower it to 10 days. It's just 1 week after this meeting is the deadline, 1 week. So it's just, you know, it's not a lot of time.
I think it would be
Gage,
confusing.
you put together, you put together this agenda for this meeting for a lot of years. Is
Yeah, well, I suppose going less is fine, but it's, you know, once you go 10 days, you're, you know, we're trying to, if the packets come out 3 or 4 days at least prior to our meeting, so you're gonna have 10 days plus 2 or 3, because they're not gonna make them reprint and re-agenda the package. So now you're back to 14 days. And who's gonna make up the list of, this is, you know, this is 10 days, this is this, you know, I think it's just easier to say, look, this is it. Get it to us 14 days, you know, and we can take, maybe we can take special, you know, accounting of items, and we bring it up in new business or something like that, or commissioner comments. As long as it's not something that we have to vote on, it should be okay to discuss it and bring it up. But I think 14 days it sounds like a lot of time, but when you're trying to do things like this, it's not a lot of time.
And certainly, I'm thick-skinned on this thing. I can tell you the process.
Yeah,
I do put together this agenda, and I try to keep a few things in mind. One, some of us travel during the week. I know that at least 3 of us are
Yeah.
often not at home in our house multiple nights a week. So I just like to give people time to prepare for something, because I know I don't, I think less about myself when I come to this meeting. I'm not fully prepared to discuss whatever's on the agenda, because it's what I've committed to do. And I guess the other thing is I just try to be mindful of everyone's time. A lot of us, our alarm clocks will go off pretty early tomorrow morning. So I don't want this thing to run into.
Yes, it will.
You know, I don't want to get over, it's easy to get over ambitious and put so many items on this agenda that either one we're feeling like we can't devote enough time to
Right.
them, and we have to rush through them, or we're here till really late at night. But again, if someone's got critiques or ideas of how we could do a better job putting this agenda together, or how I can,
I am all for not reinventing the wheel and for leaving it as it is. It's been working, so. I think that we, you know, if we keep making all of these changes with things, it gets very confusing on what's this week's role. So, the system has been working. For all of us, except for, it's not working for Mike. So I don't know that switching it around is going to do anything but confuse everybody.
go ahead.
Yeah, you know, I agree. My only question is like, say, something like we forgot to put duck boxes on the agenda. Like, is that's something okay to talk about, you know, about doing later in the meeting? Yeah,
too. Yeah, I did too.
Right, can we do that
Oh,
under
there we
commissioners'
go.
comments? And, I mean, does that have to have a 2-week leeway?
I think
Like-
Paul has an answer for that.
No, I'm actually not here for the duck. I just wanted to also say, Gina, you reminded me, I'm sorry. Do you follow the same rules as what community development, since community development is your,
Yes.
it's what they do for their planning board, what they do for their zoning board. These are the requirements that they set forth, and you hit it on a key point. If you start doing all these onesie, twosies, it gets a little confusing. Well, is it the planning board? Is it 14 days? Is it 21 days? Is it 10 days? Is it 3 days? So I think what they do is when they set their agendas, they try to be as consistent as possible with lead times on some of the stuff that goes out. And I think they're the ones that are setting some of your deadlines of it so that it's in their head that this is everything going forward. Now, to talk about the duck boxes, that's fine. You can discuss it. I think there's the last agenda item is comments or, so you can have comments on it, but if somebody wants to say, hey, wait a second, I think if you want to take a vote, we have to put this on the agenda. That's different. You know, a lot of times we'll have counselors say, for instance, I would like to talk about XYZ. They'll go into an explanation, and then the rest of the council says, great, let's agenda it for the next meeting. So you can lead into it, and then they agenda it, and then they get the backup and make the vote on the next meeting. So you can talk about stuff. It's just, if it's not listed to take a vote, people aren't gonna come out and scream. If you're talking about duck boxes, they're not gonna come out and scream at you saying, why are you talking about duck boxes? But if you take a vote to buy 5,000 duck boxes, they're gonna scream because they weren't notified that you were gonna vote on duck boxes. That's the difference.
Yeah.
That's that sniff test.
Thank you.
You should come to every meeting.
This has been helpful. Anyone else?
No.
Feedback, suggestions on the agenda process? All right. Moving on. Takes us to old business. Tunisian Lane, Fields Farm. Everyone has, just in case you're not familiar with what that's what that, in your packet, this overview. This is the parcel we were talking about. The reason that was added to this agenda as to something we wanted to cover under old business is we did receive some feedback.
Yeah, I can
And you
talk
have
about
some-
that a little if you want.
Yeah, please.
So, I got reports that bike trails were being built on Fields Farm, Tunisian, our conservation land over there. So I went and I took a look, and sure enough, there's bike trails going in recently, fresh cuts, bridges. Yeah, you know, and we weren't part of that decision. Somebody is making trails and putting bridges in, definitely bike trails, because they wind around everywhere. And this is a property, did we want to do this, you know, and who's doing this, and how do we stop it? It's definitely on that property. And,
You said you found like a couple entry points,
yeah, so there's,
seemingly, kind of.
I went in, I'm not sure if there's one closer to the bridge, but I went in, I parked on Farmer Road and walked across the street, and there was a bike trail there going into the woods.
Farmer Road is this one right here, I think, right?
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah.
And I walked across the street, because it's too busy to park on Amherst Road. And there's a bike trail, you know, almost across from there. And you walk down there, I mean, it's a beautiful piece of land
Yeah.
down the Sahegan River, but then there's bike trails that wind around all over there. You can see fresh cut trees and saplings, and you can see bridges, and it's all recent.
We've not posted that property at all, that it's Conservation Commission property. And we don't post no trespassing signs anywhere. So, and that's we were waiting for that we were waiting for that land that's around Windy Hill, Windy
Mhm.
Hollow, whatever it's, what's it called, Windy Hill?
Windy Hollow.
Windy Hollow. That's supposed to be, that comes to us as part of the development of that parcel, supposedly, when the open land permit. And once that happens, that was when we were expecting to start a subcommittee for that parcel. Do we, I guess we should start it now?
This is a little side thing. One thing I was wondering is, I mean, this is what, a quarter mile from Horse Hill?
It's close, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's something the Horse Hill Subcommittee want to talk about, if whether they wanted to encompass this property also? And then I'm just throwing this out there as maybe something.
No, it's gonna be another month before we have a subcommittee meeting.
Yeah, but I mean, in the future, like, instead of creating a separate Fields Farm subcommittee,
It'd be worth discussing.
discussing whether to join that with Horse Hill. We could talk about it at a future time too, you know, as a,
How many acres is Horse Hill?
500 something?
Sure, almost 500, yeah, 482 or something like that,
Yeah.
I think it would make more sense to join Fields Farm with the rest of the properties along the Sohegan. Maybe
I would-
Wildcat?
But, yeah, it's just so close to Horse Hill that most of the subcommittee members kind of live around the property. It tends to happen a lot. But,
What I'm
Yeah.
hearing is we have unauthorized use, clearly
Yeah.
unauthorized use
Yeah.
on a piece of,
Well,
on a
it's-
parcel for which we're responsible, and we need to move on to doing something to.
yes, it's not just so much that they're riding their bikes or walking, you can do that. It's that
But
they're.
changing the nature of the
Yes,
property.
they're making trails,
Yeah.
cutting trees, saplings, and making bridges. Yeah.
And there are some deed restrictions on that parcel. So, and one of them was, I think there's no power tools or something, there was some, or no powered activities or something, there was some, I have to go back and read the deed. But there are some restrictions on that parcel, some unique restrictions on that parcel that we need to obviously honor.
Do we, do we want to post a trailhead, or wherever they're using as their access points
Yeah.
with something?
We need to, if we don't have any don't make any trail signs.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, and you've been there, sometimes you put a sign out and it attracts more people to the fact that this is an access point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's multiple, and they're not big bridges, they're the typical, going over a little seasonal stream type of bridge. Actually, one of them is a decent, but they're a couple of feet wide,
Dealt well?
They're, pretty much what we see out
Okay.
out in our properties. Yeah.
I think
So-
we should find that person and engage them on the committee.
Show them where we want the bridges built.
So, yeah, I mean, when I found out about this, and so I checked it out, and I'm just like, well, we know nothing about it, and we're overseeing that land, and so I thought we should, try to figure out what's going on over there. And that, I think, but yeah, that would be, maybe that would be something, Fields Farm maybe could be joined with another subcommittee. I mean, personally, I think it makes more sense for Horse Hill, just because it's so close, the properties are so close.
Yeah, I agree with you, but it just seems Horse Hill is too much for a
Yeah.
limited
Well,
number of
it's not-
volunteers.
It's not really expanding, or, it is a big property, but, I mean, they could, the ex officios and the people from the subcommittee could talk more about that.
Yeah, right, I mean, the Horse Hill's pretty much built out with all the trails that are there now. I think it's more maintaining the trails that are there, but, they might be interested in taking on this, yeah. I think it'd definitely be worth asking them.
Well, I mean, the way that, when Tim left, he said that when the legal issues were clarified,
Mhm.
that he was planning on starting a subcommittee.
Right.
So it might be helpful to get some input from him.
Yeah, he might
Before
already have
we-
people in mind, right?
well,
to-
before we jump to any conclusions, and, you know, he lives on that road,
Yeah.
so he may have some insight into, what's going on there. You never know.
Well, we know there is a problem though, so
Yeah.
thank you
Yeah.
for venturing out there.
I mean, it might be nice to do a springtime site walk, once the mud's gone, and, see if we can figure out who is doing this. Like you said, if we can figure out where the trails are leading into. If it's leading into somebody's yard.
I mean, this
then
trail,
That's very telling.
yeah, the trail I went into comes right out from the road. I mean,
Okay.
it's not somebody's yard.
Okay.
But, yeah, it sure is beautiful along the river there.
Mhm.
Yep. It gets pretty steep over here too. There's some good hill,
Do-
good
do-
topography.
Yeah.
Do we want to table this for another meeting, or just bring it up at another meeting?
I think we need to do a little fact finding,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Again, if I know you speak to Tim still fairly regularly.
Mhm.
If you want to contact him. And
Sure.
you're are you ex officio? Who's ex officio for Horse Hill?
I am.
That's right, that's you, all right.
Yeah, and I want to know some information
Yeah.
before we have a discussion at the subcommittee, because if Horse Hill is, there's a difference between maintaining an existing thing
Yeah,
and then
and then-
coming up with a
yeah.
development plan for
Well,
Oh, Jesus.
something.
I'm thinking more like, just because,
I'm scared of that.
no, if this parcel here
Mhm.
is what is supposed to be coming to us. That is the greenway that goes out to across the road,
Mhm.
and it gets into, it was supposed to be trying to be part of a greenway into Horse Hill.
Right.
So at least, and the thing is like, the people that are on Horse Hill, a lot of them live in that area.
Mhm.
So if they have some friends that are interested in doing something like this would be a great time to look for more people that maybe could support that.
That's good.
I mean, the trails are basically there already.
Yeah, well,
Jeez.
Yeah, but are they trails that we would have
Right.
put in?
Do you, right, as a commission in this type of property, would we have wanted bike trails which zigzag all over the place to be
Some-
there?
Someone has come in
No.
and decided the purpose of this property without contacting
Yeah.
us.
Exactly.
And what they have done is essentially, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's illegal what they did.
yes,
So if we find out who did it, they can be,
I guess the other part of fact finding, do we want to post it?
right,
It's not posted now though.
but they would be required to put it back the way it was.
Good luck with that.
yeah.
Yeah, you're getting into some legal issues
Mhm.
with, sorry. You're getting into some legal issues with what the remediation would be. That would be, first step is, let's find out who's doing it. Second step is, doesn't hurt to put up a sign on
Yeah.
the property saying, this is under conservation management. Questions, call, whatever.
Right.
Kind of deal. You've done this in other areas through town where people have been using it for years for an intended purpose, and conservation comes in there and it's like, no, you can't ride your ATV here anymore. You can't ride your snowmobile anymore through here. That property, haven't been on it, but I know it's beautiful, and I know there's been talk between the commission and DPW about canoe launch on a portion of the property, down, closer to the river. I know that it abuts the river, and I don't know where these trails are. They must be basically driving around there.
Yeah, they're new, they go throughout.
They go through everything, and it's some, you don't know if it's, I can't say it's somebody local, but it's somebody who had interest to take the time to do this stuff. At least he's not running through streams and wrecking the streams. He or she is kind of conservation minded, that they're putting up these bridges so that they can go over the streams, because, these extreme mountain bikers just love to run through all that stuff, and downhill and rocky terrain and things of that sort. So it's somebody who's given it some thought. Just got to find out who the people are. It's probably more than one. Might be a club or something, but and then talk to them and say, this is underneath Conservation Commission. You didn't have permission, and then figure out how you want to proceed with the next step once we get our attorneys involved and the police involved.
It's an
if it goes
experience,
that far.
it's an experienced person. They kind of know what they're doing.
Yeah,
I could tell that.
I have all the signs, leftover signs, so I can go peel through them and see if there's anything that is kind of, hey, this is our property, don't touch, type of thing.
How about we make some sort of barricade, drop a tree or something, and put one of the trail cams on it to see who clears it? Pretty easy way to catch them.
Might just be easier just to ask,
Mm,
too. We're getting,
with a sign.
yeah, I mean, there's, I'm sure if it's someone in that neighborhood, you almost guaranteed that there's a trail coming up to the back of the house.
Well, exactly.
So we can just ask around first and see if any of if the bike clubs, anybody knows about it, they're pretty good. I still talk to Matt pretty regularly, so I can ask him if he knows anything about it.
I asked them already.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Does he know?
No,
I don't want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, you are putting me on the spot.
Sorry.
But not, he does, I don't think he knows,
Okay.
but, yeah.
Yeah, but let's see if we look into it a little bit, I'll see what we have for signage. And then if we can figure out what's going on, we'll go post up a couple of them and go from there.
Okay.
All right, moving on. The only other item under old business was the update on our proposed meeting. This is, I gave her the wrong date. It's actually the date we were looking at is not March 28th, it was March 29th. To do a site walk. One thing Gina observed was, I don't know how this got biased, but we do have 2 meetings scheduled for March. We have one scheduled on March 7th, which would be our normal Monday. And there's also one scheduled for March 14th. I don't know why we would have done that. If we're talking about adding a meeting for March 29th, I would say we amend our meeting schedule now. Let's just do away with the March 14th one, add the March 29th one. I know not everyone here will be able to attend that March 29th one. It is a Tuesday. We'd have to pick a time, probably 10 or 11 o'clock. I did get confirmation from the commissioner, the Fish and Game Commissioner for Hillsborough County, who's talked to us about this before, Commissioner Ray Green, said he would pencil that in on his schedule and had an interest in attending that. And the other individual was the director of the statewide public boat access program, is Garrett Grasscamp. I hope I said that right. We corresponded during email, through email several times, and he's also penciled that day in on his schedule. He's very familiar with it. You know, as soon as I mentioned the parcel we were looking at, he said, I'm extremely familiar with this. We've looked at it a number of times. He said, I know the principal concerns they've had before are the access and that railroad crossing. So, but either way, he definitely said he'd pencil it in on his schedule. It probably would be a rain or shine type thing. He would show up down there and at least give his feedback, and we'll, as the date gets closer, we'll make sure DPW, Kyle, or whomever he chooses is aware of the date and can participate also. So I'll go ahead and make that that schedule change to our meeting schedule. No other feedback?
So
And we'll have to-
the 14th is going away?
14th is going away, and we'll replace it with the 29th.
And since it's a site walk, we'll have to
Mhm.
publicize it and everything,
Well, yeah.
like normal.
Publicize it, and there'll be enough, there certainly will be a quorum there, so
Yeah.
we'll make sure it's on the meeting. We'll have an agenda for it and
Mhm.
everything else.
Okay, I'll take the 14th off our calendar, our MCC calendar, but I'll wait till we have definite times to add the other one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brings us to other items. Are there any subcommittee updates? You have one, Gina.
I do. Wildcat Falls met on January 11th. We did discuss the bridge, and Andrew Dwayne feels that he could probably cut a piece of wood on his own property to fit and go down and redo that. So if he cannot, he will let us know. There are some downed trees along the North Loop Trail, and Mike, from what I understand from Andy, we're gonna be contacting Lori Barrett from Operations, and you had volunteered to be the contact person to get in touch with Lori with
Sure.
any needs for chainsaw. So I will put right now that there are trees down on North Loop Trail at Wildcat Falls that would need to be cut and, if possible, moved over to the side of the trail and just left for cover.
Yeah, they usually do an excellent job
Yes.
clearing, the trail's definitely open when they're done.
Yes.
You know about how many? North Loop's not that long a trail anyway.
It's not that long.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many exactly. I'm thinking there's probably 3 or 4 of them.
Okay.
And they just have to cut where the trail is and then just move that piece. So
Yeah.
you leave whatever's on the side. There is one tree that does need to come down. We haven't had a chance to mark it with a ribbon yet. So when we do that, I will let you know about that. It's just, it's not a
Okay.
healthy looking tree.
So when you do that, let me know.
I will.
We do it all at once.
Okay, that
Okay.
sounds great, yeah.
You know, the best thing to do is get a map and circle on where it is.
Perfect,
so
we
they
will
know
do
where-
that.
They know where they're going.
Okay.
We've had great luck,
And- yeah.
good support from them when we let them know exactly where we want them to be. That's worked out really well.
And if
Okay.
someone can meet them, it's even better.
Perfect, okay. I'm sure that Andrew would be happy to do that, or I can go down and show them where things are. North Loop, it's gonna be a matter of just walking
Yeah,
it.
that's easy.
Okay. And one of the things that, that Karen, who is our chair, had suggested is, when you pull into the parking lot, it's not our parking lot. It's, I believe it's Parks and Rec's property, or DPW's property, but on the side of it, people park there, and there is wetlands, so we are concerned about that. There were signs up, and people have either pulled up the signs or knocked the signs over, and the signs are now down. So the question becomes, what can we do with the side there so that people are not parking there? So
So when you pull into the parking lot,
when you pull into the parking lot.
there's supposed to be headed parking along the right side,
Yes,
and the left side was supposed to be left there. No one's parking there.
Right.
And that's where they're parking now, is they're
yes,
parking.
yes. The no parking signs just
gone.
keep going away. But the problem is there is wetlands there.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily want to block their blueberry bushes. People like to go pick the blueberries. The animals want to get in and out to get the blueberries. But you don't want people parking there. So the question becomes, do you, someone had suggested a chain link fence, which would make it a little difficult, if people need to get in there. We talked about whether we put up a post and beam fence, whether we put up Jersey barriers. But the thing is, if DPW could think about some way, even if we just blanket it with no parking signs, with posts that say no parking, just to let people know, we don't want you parking here. This is, maybe we put a sign up that says wetlands, but it's not our parking lot. So the question becomes, it really is something that, I think it must be DPW that owns that parking lot.
They do a lot of support for that parking lot, because they
Yeah.
take care of the trash and everything else.
They took the
But
trash can out.
that whole area has had enough of a profile that I think probably just no parking signs and then letting the police know that they can go in and ticket people there
Yeah,
might be the best way to stop that activity.
okay.
Because we're gonna get good support from that neighborhood for
Oh, yeah.
having fewer cars in there.
Yes,
So
yes,
they'd be happy about that.
okay. What were some of the other things
So
that
we
we
just have to make a
discussed?
request, I guess we'd make a request to Lori, see if they can put up no parking signs, maybe sing some posts and put up no parking signs or something along there.
Okay,
So again, it'd be great if someone could meet them,
Yeah.
yep.
okay.
I
Um,
would suggest you have a meeting with them to
Decide where they go.
decide not only decide where they're going, but this is the problem. How do we come up with a solution? Because just putting up a no parking sign, it might not be enforceable.
Okay,
So, come up with a solution. This is the problem. What do we need to do?
okay. And that would be Lori to talk to?
Talk to Gloria first, and she can take it from there.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
We can provide you with a list of our meetings.
Yeah. Not that I don't love coming here and doing this. I'm sorry, I should have left.
No, no.
Delaying your meeting.
We appreciate that.
And I did get a question at the last meeting, or was it the meeting before? We did approve, it was the last meeting, we approved for Holly Hoag to put up a trail cam at Wildcat, and she wants to know if she can post her photos to websites. I didn't give her an answer, but I don't see how we could stop her. Those are her photos now. And if she went in and she took a picture in the woods, she can post it wherever she wants. So I don't know if you see any reason why she shouldn't be able to post her pictures. I mean,
I've
clear-
been posting pictures of our properties on my blog for 16 years, and if I have to take them down,
Yeah,
tell
I
me
mean,
now.
You go to state parks, national parks.
Right, yeah.
Take pictures.
Got a
Okay.
jury in the county.
So I will let her know that that's not a problem. Okay, and that's all I have for Wildcat. Our next meeting will be sometime in April. The date is to be decided, so.
Thank you, Gina. Anyone else, subcommittee?
Horse Hill's going to meet, I'm losing the date, I think it's the 22nd, but I know it was on the calendar when I checked earlier today. And we're going to bring somebody forward. His name is Kirk Ware. He has put in a letter to us about joining the subcommittee, and I know Mark is enthusiastic about him, so we will be asking to have his name put on the agenda for our next meeting. So
What
look
was his
forward to
name
that.
again?
Kirk Ware, W-A-R-E.
Kirk,
Thank you.
W-A-R-E. So is he going to actually come to the meeting, or do you want him to submit?
I know that the letter will be submitted. I do
Okay.
not know if if he's planning to attend yet.
Okay.
Sklar will be meeting, this Thursday, the 27th, to, do the 10-year plan, long-term plan. Yeah, there's a lot of trees overhanging the road from the snowstorms. There's one tree that is along the road. I tried to move it, but, didn't work out for me. I knocked down an overhanging branch with a rake. And, yeah, Mike, if you could, ask DPW just to drive along it and get
Yeah.
any, broken branches that are overhanging.
So, I definitely can do that, but I think one thing we might want to be cautious of with DPW is like trying, like, I don't know how to say this, but like, if there's like one small tree down somewhere, we don't want to call them out to do that. But if there's like when it starts to get to be a few or it's obstructing something, then call them up and get them out to do that. So, like, how bad are these obstructions? Like, I know there's a couple of trees down in Greater Woods, but, they're only this big, and they're across the trails, and there's snow, and the bikes can go over them. And they're 2 miles from anywhere, or a mile from anywhere. So I'm not gonna call DPW to cut those trees that are down, because they're not this high, they're on the ground.
Well, I figure like 1 or 2 trees are down on the road, but I'm
They're
more
blocking
concerned
the
with
road?
the overhanging, because that's
Yep.
actually a safety hazard. If a truck hits it and it falls down through their windshield,
Okay.
and they can get the trees at the same time if they're there for that.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that for you, I'm saying that for all of us. We don't want to call them out every time there's one tree down somewhere. That's not causing a big problem because, they're busy, so, and they've been very good. They've been excellent, but I don't want to abuse it.
Yeah, I think Mike brings up a good point, just about keeping our expectations realistic and just kind of creating an order of merit list for these projects. So
Yeah.
certainly no one's expectation is that I want to make sure the pothole on my street gets fixed because they're not out
So
removing a
is-
single tree.
Is this something you definitely
It
needs?
needs to be done.
And the same thing with North Loop, definitely, right now?
Well, with North Loop, I mean, it's the winter, so, I would think that, you're walking and you come to a tree and you step over it, so. But eventually, it would be nice to have it all done. I definitely think that one trip to take down the trees on North Loop and to take the tree down by the river is all that's necessary. I don't want to
Okay.
drag them out twice.
So, these trees are along the road?
Yeah,
So
you-
it should be
you-
obvious to them?
You can't miss it. You have to
Okay.
kind of move a little bit to get around it. That's why I was trying to move it, but With my back, I can't do that.
Okay. Anything else for subcommittees? Updates? No? All
March
right.
9th is the next Greater Woods Committee.
March 9th?
March 9th.
All right, presentation of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the Merrimack Conservation Commission meeting minutes dated January 3rd, 2022, with changes as follows.
Second.
And I'm going to say Stephanie is awesome.
I do-
She has been doing these meetings for like twice, and she's doing a fantastic job. I'm
She
very,
is.
very impressed.
Did I do my one before you,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
okay. On page 5, line 196, Vice Chair Boisvert spoke with Fish and Game previously. They are not interested in the treatment plant site for boat ramps. I believe I was talking about Scalar, not, at least I hope I was. I meant to be, this is Scalar I was talking about.
Not interested in Sklar for a boat ramp.
For a boat ramp, right, for funding for a boat ramp, because it couldn't accommodate large boats there.
I'll go back and rewatch it and just see exactly what was said.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, that's the problem is if you said something about the treatment plant, even if you meant Sklar.
That's
you'd have to
what
put-
happened, yeah.
Yeah, but I'll go back and rewatch. All right, thank you for that. The only thing that I saw was, and it's such a tiny thing, I'm embarrassed to even say it, on page 2, line 48, to show possessive of towns, I would put an apostrophe after the S on towns. Is Ellen over there nodding too? This was, no, it was, yeah, line 48. And that's all I have.
Anyone else? All right, vote to approve the minutes as amended. All in favor? It's 7-0. The motion passes. There are no public here for public comments. Commissioner comments. I forget which end I started at last week. Dave, anything?
I was down the Sklat Park, and there was a couple people down there, there was like a grandfather, a father, and a child about 12 riding ATVs and dirt bikes, that type of stuff. So I approached them and said, it's illegal to do it down here, and they said, oh, okay, we didn't know it because the people over there at the airport said we could ride down here. So maybe if somebody could talk to the airport people and say, if they may have been making this up, you know?
They're talking about the Flying Eagles?
Yes.
Okay.
He said, I would tell you the name, but I don't want to get him in trouble. I said, well, that's okay, just not supposed to be down here. Well, what about snowmobiles? I said, they're not supposed to be down here either. He's gonna go with wheeled vehicles versus motorized. And so I just explained that it's because of the deed, you're not allowed to do that down here. And they said, okay, thank you, and they packed up and left. So I was just curious about the airport one saying, no, go right over there. So,
Thank you.
that's all.
Thank you, yeah. We've got some
Oh, they were
contacts
from
there.
Massachusetts too.
It's gotta be a new pilot, because half of those guys helped us put some of those signs in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you,
When you're driving in, you can see all the signs.
Yeah.
They said, we didn't know. I said, how could you miss all the signs when you came in? You know.
Dave, would you like to call them, since you're the one who had the contact?
Call who?
I can give you a name, I'm sure Mike can give you a name of someone to call who runs the Flying Eagles to get the word out.
Does anybody here have a relationship with them?
I do.
Okay, like it is. Yeah, I didn't know if anybody here had a working relationship with any of those gentlemen, so.
So
people.
just getting a
I'll do
word
it.
to them that, maybe somebody said this and please don't, or
Right.
something.
That's all I was thinking. Thank you.
Yep. Mike?
Oh, all right. One person asked me about a list of open positions on subcommittees. I don't know where to direct them for that.
Community development.
All right, so they have this, all right. Uh,
Website.
Town website.
Town's
Town's website has all the committees, open positions, terms, vacancies, when people are up. So there's a whole section on the town website that talks about that.
huh.
It outlines the submission process too, I think.
It does not have the subcommittees though, right?
Does not.
It's only got the committees that are voted in, like us.
Well,
So
he was asking
the
about-
subcommittees are held by community development.
All right. Also, while I was article hopping for those honeybees, I came across chestnuts. And I found out that there's not very many mature American chestnuts because of blight. So I also found out that they were trying to make resistant American chestnuts by doing something.
They're crossbreeding with a Chinese chestnut and then crossbreeding the Chinese chestnut out of it.
Yeah,
And it's
so-
gonna retain the resilience.
Well,
I
you're
think
good.
that'd be pretty interesting. Maybe UNH would have some information on that, and they might have a program where we could have chestnuts on our properties or
The
something.
state has got a nursery at Fox State Forest where they are doing, it's dedicated to the chestnuts, so I don't know if it's I think Fox State Forest, I don't know if that's under forestry or state parks, but there is a program in the state to bring back the chestnuts.
Just an interesting side note to that is you will see chestnuts growing on our property, but they don't get more
Yeah.
than 8 feet high, then they die. They
Yeah.
keep trying.
Yeah. I keep planting them.
And I was always looking at old painting and seeing all the animals and stuff. And I was like, why isn't there many animals anymore? I understand development, but, you know, it said that 1 in 4 hardwoods are chestnuts and they produce a lot of food. So that might be one of the reasons. So it would be very beneficial if we could aid in that. Yeah.
Anything else? Cindy?
In my travels through Facebook, I discovered there is a Town of Merrimack Facebook page now. So I said, hey, that's very cool. So I contacted them through private message and asked if that was something that we could post on, and I got a response from Nick LaValle. Because somehow on Facebook also Merrimack Conservation popped up. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?
Yes, I wouldn't. I actually asked for it to be on the agenda, but didn't make it.
Okay, well, we're not going to talk about it right now. I just want to make sure that you know that that's not a sanctioned site, and that should be put on there, that that is not an official site of Merrimack Conservation Commission.
I don't
And that
have
is
to.
something that should be on the next agenda to discuss.
Well, if it made it to this agenda,
It did not make it to this agenda. I'm bringing it up and asking it to go to the next agenda. I am bringing it up in my commissioner comments because I noticed it, because most of us are not on Facebook. But if you have started a Merrimack Conservation Facebook page, you need to make sure that people know, that is not something that we are all even aware of. I just happened to come across it.
it's not related to this commission.
Then put it
Say
on
so.
there.
I
Then
don't have to.
Put it on there.
I don't have to.
Why?
I don't have to. I did the same thing in
Then I will
Hudson.
put it on there and make
And
sure
that-
that people know that it is not related to here.
Okay.
All right? Okay, so on the next agenda, we should discuss rules of posting on behalf of the commission.
I can add that.
Thank you.
The only commissioner comments I had was, I'd like to help somebody clean duck boxes. It's that time of year. It's that time of year. If you don't know about our program, we've got all these duck boxes. There's a limited window to when we can get out there,
Like now.
clean them out, make them beautiful new homes for next year's ducks. I'm looking for a partner to join me at one of the parcels.
Yeah, I think Gage
I
and
joined
had a-
Gage last year on horse heads, and he's tough to keep up with. Can I go with someone that
Yeah,
might be
yeah,
a little
come-
bit slower?
Check out Greater Woods.
All right, I'll meet you at Greater Woods.
How
We'll,
many- how
we'll
many-
set up a time
How many
afterwards.
duck boxes do you need?
I put 2 up last year, you gave me one, and they found an old one. I don't know where I would put Any new duck
Anymore?
boxes, yeah, because all the dead trees are kind of falling over everywhere, there's not many,
Okay.
so I don't need any, I don't think.
Well, there's one in the back of, well, outside my backyard that you look out in the swamp that, but I think it was almost, I'm trying to think of how it was even situated. Like, I don't think you could pull one up right now.
Oh, it was in the ice.
Yeah. But I'll walk out and look at it and see.
So you gonna be my
Yes.
duck
would you-
box buddy?
Yeah.
When are we trying to do this?
Over the weekend?
We'll pick a time, sometime
Well,
weekend.
that's what I was trying to,
So,
Does someone wanna be Gage's duck box buddy?
oh. I walked.
I think I have enough shavings that you gave me last
I
year.
have more. I have more. I kicked the mice out of them just this past weekend. Put them back in a new container. Oh yeah, you with me, like, we had to capture that little mouse there. I think he's still living there.
Yeah, we did, we saved him.
Good.
Yeah, I knew you'd be happy with us. I saved him and stuffed him back in the shavings. I took him back and put him back in the shed for the year.
Oh.
We can get out on the ice now, so now is the time.
The ice is great right now, and that could change in a week.
And that was my comment, the only other comment was thank you to the town manager for coming, sticking with us tonight. That was helpful.
Yeah.
If you guys are trying to do it this weekend, I'm out straight this weekend. But I can.
They don't all have to be done at once.
Well, no, but I'm saying, if you need shavings or like that, I mean, I have stuff,
I think I have enough, from last
yeah,
year.
just let me know and I'll have to hook up with you, because,
And if I don't, right, you can drop it off, or I can come
Yeah.
get them. I'll check it out.
we're
And,
having a delayed Christmas on the 29th, and I'm flying out Friday, Sunday morning, so
wow, yeah.
it's,
So could we do Grit of Wood since ice is good
yeah,
right
yeah,
now?
fine with that.
And
Yeah, go
then
ahead.
maybe Horse Hills some other time,
Yeah.
or, yeah. Okay,
We'll pick a time. Mike, what do you have?
that was my comments too.
Yeah, duck boxes.
No? Nothing? Nothing? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Gina, second by Andy, all in favor? All right. We've got
I reflexively second.
8:02. Have a great night. Thank you.